the vibe that you're distant. There's something about you that's different. I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. It is a lie when you tell me that nothing is wrong, just leave it be. But I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. I will make it right. I will make it right. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Tell me again. Tell me again.
Ready.
Oops. Oh, man, we're going to get that ding ding thing. I don't know what that was.
Hey, it was Elon Musk giving me a blue check mark. I like it.
For free. Oh, hey, Rodney, how are you?
Fantastic, sir. How are you doing?
Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I can see Christmas around the corner. I tried to go to Target the other day and I was I was in a line of traffic for 40 minutes. At Target. What's going on
Just to
with
get
that?
to Target?
I mean, just I started the approach, I thought, I got to get something at Target, and it wasn't consequential really. I just wanted to go to the store, and I got into traffic, and then I thought, heck with this, I'm not going to do it. And I was stuck in traffic for at least 25 minutes trying to get out of there after having made the mistake of starting the process. God, I mean, it was just crazy down here in Cool Springs during Christmas. It gets a little wacky.
Yeah, it's my Christmas is like 10 years ago, maybe longer. I was like, I want to do 100% of my Christmas shopping online. Like,
Right.
and pretty much I've never went back. I'm like, but I do everything online now. So,
Yeah, I do most of it, especially for my daughter out in Colorado Springs. I surely do that, but better than the old days of wrapping and mailing and messing around with that stuff.
oh yeah.
So, for anybody that's not seen us before, and if you're catching us on a replay, which is where we get most of our views, to be honest, that's how that works. Because Tuesday afternoon, who's available? A lot of people are working. I get that, just like we are, but in a different way. My name is Andy Elliott, and this is Rodney Wilds. He's the VP of F&M Mortgage here in Brentwood. I am I'm with Benchmark Realty here in Brentwood, which is in Williamson County, Tennessee. Pardon me. And the goal of our show is, number one, to just shoot straight with you. We're not going to be negative about things. We're not going to spin things to get attention. If good stuff happens, we're the first to tell you. Our goal really is to, in my opinion, I think Rodney would agree, is to help you survive this crazy market. That's what I'd like to make the theme of this show, is helping people survive. And we're not in this for any other reason than just to help you. And if you have questions, our contact information is in the description box, because sometimes you need to talk to a person offline, to get your questions answered. So all that information is there. And to start our show, Rodney always starts us this way with rates and sort of an update, because everybody's interested in rates. We are. And he always gives us an update on where we're going with the money. So Rodney, take it away.
All right. Excuse me. You can see here our current update right now. We are up 38 basis points on mortgage-backed securities. You can also see the S&P is a little bit up, and the 10-year Treasury is down a little bit. And that's reflective. When this goes down, when the Treasury goes down, our mortgage rates usually gets better. Now, the one very positive thing that I like to point out right now is that since this November 10th date that we had a very large decrease in rates, you can see that we are holding steady to that level all the way through today. So we're approaching right now about a month of improved rates. That little bitty rate right here, on the November 14th, that increase that day, it actually sparked a little bit of a market improvement, where there were some sales right before Thanksgiving and kind of still going on to this day. So Andy, something I take away from this is, I think when the rates hit bottom in this area right here, I think investors said, I will buy mortgage-backed securities at 7%, because I think that's a long-term good investment.
Right.
So as soon as they started buying those, that to me is what triggered it to go back to where they got it low enough to where the market is still correct, kind of correcting itself with the imbalance that we've had, but it has spurred some more activity. So
Got
Um,
it.
I
What?
think that's good, and why I say it's good to know, Andy, is I think that may be like you see our maximum. Like, how bad can the rates get? If you ever think like that, is like
Right.
how bad can it get? Well, I don't think it's going to get worse than what it did, or people's going to start buying them again, and which drives the price down. So
Right. If you
that's
could scroll back to the top of your screen, I got a question for you that
gotcha.
so when you're talking about the treasures, you're talking about that 38 basis points on the left of the screen, is that right?
This is mortgage, yes, the mortgage-backed securities, right
Okay.
here.
And and so when that goes up, what happens? Like it's up
See,
38.
yeah, you see the 30-year. This is exactly a note of 30-year at 5.5, and with a 101 point, that's basically you can look at that as income or how much that's worth right there. So that right there has improved 38 basis points.
Got it.
So if this started out at 101.11, that just means it'd be at 101.49.
Okay.
Um, and then the U.S. Treasury on the far right, it's gone down basis points. It opened up at 3.606, and it's at 3.51 now.
Right.
Now.
And so that I'm clear, again, you're the financial guy, I'm not. Although they're not directly connected, mortgage rates fluctuate which way on each of those?
Mortgage rates, like when it's green, mortgage
Yeah.
rates are getting better.
Okay.
If the U.S. Treasury is getting lower, that's what we want to see. It means our rates will get better.
Okay.
The
Okay.
10-year Treasury.
Got it. Okay. Let's say
The,
that's
the 10-year Treasury follows mortgage backed securities a little bit better than most other things.
got it. Okay. So if anybody happens to have able to get that screen, that green is good as far as the 30-year.
Yes. Yes.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Good. All right. Thank you, Rodney. That's really good. That's good. So what so I don't do you have any particular feelings about Zillow? Do you have an opinion, a thought in
Um,
general, just in general?
well, I think they're like everybody else. I think they overreached a little bit with their company with the buying. They tried to buy and sell. In that very end of the market there, and kind of got busted up with that. Um, no, but outside, and now they're trying to do mortgages too. So, they may have some success in that, but it's harder than it looks. But
Right.
overall, though, Zillow has been a phenomenal resource for our industry for a while now. So,
Absolutely. I agree with you. Between Zillow and Redfin, even though you could view that as competition, I suppose they are. They are. But one thing they're really, really good at is data. I mean,
mhm.
they're just excellent at data. But a lot of this stuff, these things are projections. And so, what today's show is about is about Zillow's bold predictions for 20 and 23. Because everybody, at least I do, I want to know what I'm getting into in the future, kind of what I'm about. And Zillow has been sort of famous for being I don't want to use the word bold again, but I will. They make predictions that sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. Remember earlier in the year they were talking about how price adjustments were going to take place later in the year, and they've had to adjust it in huge amounts, in big chunks. That in other words, they were wrong on their projections earlier in the year, which most everybody was. And the reason I like that is they're not afraid to speak their mind and then adjust that going down the road. That's all I'm saying. And I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Hence the name of that article is bold predictions, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's bold
they're telling
predictions.
you. They're telling you that it could be this way.
We must like these articles that give us that challenge both sides of the coin, because last week we talked about what was it, Chase or whoever it was, they was covering both sides of the coin. They were like,
Yeah.
it's going to get bad. And then they say like, it's going to get great. So yeah.
Well, I think that everybody that's putting out content these days has learned their lesson. They've been slapped around because the market's been not what they thought. I mean,
Yeah.
this is new for all of us, but I don't know about you, but the new CPI came out today, and I think, is Jerome talking today? Is that today? But
I don't know.
the consumer price index came out today, and it's a little bit lower than what they expected, which, in my view, any good news is good news. You know what I mean?
Right.
Any good news is, I was going to say positive. What? I'll be all right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I mean, when you're at the bottom of this or at the, I don't think we're in the middle or anything. I think we're at close to the bottom of our, of the slower market. But yeah, I think that good news is always welcomed.
It's always welcome. Thank you for getting me out of that. But I mean, it looks like things are the things are calming down. We don't know how it's going to be in the spring. It could vacillate, oscillate quite a bit. But any step that's positive is good. That's part of it. So the first thing that the Zillow bold predictions just talks on a nationwide level what's going on. And so, by the way, Phil and Wendy's here. So, Rodney, I don't know if you can see the messages or not. Just saying hi to those guys.
What? Okay, great. Hey, Wendy and Phil. Yeah, I didn't have my comments turned on.
Okay, good. Now you do. All right. So number one, the Midwest is going to be front and center. And was there any particular takeaway that you had on this particular section, Rodney?
Yeah, I don't think the Midwest is going to be front and center, and I am fine. I see what they're saying, and I understand what they're saying. But I think Midwest is still the Midwest. I think it's not a destination everybody wakes up in the morning to, like California, and says, "Man, I'd love to live in California."
Right.
I mean, unless there's like 50 more Yellowstone shows that come out, I don't think they're going to see a huge Midwest fluctuation over there. But I do like the fact that their market has stayed steady. But I think it stayed steady because of demand.
Yeah. I've got to.
Does that make sense? I'm like, why would they're telling me, like, okay, if you read the article, it says, all the economic indicators that they didn't go through a crazy boom, is the way I'm taking it. And it's still a very good area as far as price goes. So, but I just don't see the, I love the rest of their articles, but this one right here, I'm like, man, I don't see how the Midwest is going to become popular unless people are wanting to go to that region for a reason.
Yeah, and I've actually got a story about that. Of course, what Redfin, this is just my view. I said Redfin, but I mean Zillow. What Zillow's approach on this article is simply a financial motivation. That's what it is. Because in the Midwest, in Ohio and Iowa and all those places, which I love those places. Anybody that's watching from there, I love you to death. I'm from Ohio, so I have a deep roots there. But the housing there, in terms of cost, the median income requirement, the threshold is less than 30% to buy a house up in those areas. Not all areas, but there's a lot of inexpensive areas by comparison if you compare it with Tennessee or Florida or Texas or whatever the case may be. And I think that what Zillow is trying to say is if people that are motivated to move for money are going to find the Midwest attractive if the work is there. I think that probably is a requirement on that. It says here, that Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kansas, upstate New York, Iowa, and smaller metros. Let me change this. There we go. And smaller metros stand out because of those costs, especially for first-time home buyers, because it's so much less expensive. Well, here's my story. Now I live in the Nashville area, and we're one of the hottest states in the nation for real estate being expensive, right? And I was raised in Lebanon, Ohio, which is near Cincinnati, just a tiny little town. And I went to visit. I went to a high school reunion. And because I'm in real estate, I couldn't help but look into, what do things cost there. And I'm telling you that an 1,800 square foot ranch on a nice street was $120,000. And I was like, could I live here? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they're using those kinds of metrics to justify moving to the Midwest, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, when you say that, I do too. Because I think about our first-time home buyers here, Andy, that we talk to, and it's like 120,000 for a good solid house. Are you kidding me? I mean, that hasn't been around in 20 years.
Yeah.
So
on a flat lot.
yeah. But it's like I don't know much about, when I think of the Midwest, only thing I think about is a tumbleweeds or something blowing through there. I know it's Pennsylvania and Ohio and some of that, because those parts get crazy expensive just like we do.
Yeah.
But the rural parts of those towns, I don't know much about it. And I'm just thinking, if it wasn't hot a year ago or 2 years ago, I don't know how it's going to get hot.
Yeah. And to be honest, I never understood maybe somebody, if they're watching this after the fact, could tell me, I never really understood the Midwest label because, in Ohio, you're a Midwesterner. That's like mid-east to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just straight north for us.
I don't, I never understood that. So must have come back in the olden days. So anyway, I understand the logic, and Rodney disagrees with their logic. And I think that the only way that it would become front and center again is for somebody that's not strictly, but maybe it's financial. I mean, it's just, if it's a financial move and they got to work, then that would be it. St. Louis, question mark says. I don't know. Is that Midwest, Philip?
Yeah, there's parts of St. Louis that's like, I don't see anybody moving to like mid St. Louis, because isn't that be some of the worst gang members and stuff coming out of there? It's some of the roughest parts of our country. But there's really lovely places there too. I love St. Louis. Hey, the beer, right? The Anheuser-Busch factories there, right?
Can't fault them for that.
You gotta like that. But yeah, I mean, it's I also see part of my rationale with this is that I see work being brought back more to the office than I am what we've seen pre-pandemic and pandemic. So the rural counties are going to pose the same problems they've always had, is, transportation, getting back, the commute back and forth to your main office or whatever.
You bet. I think that that's going to be a big change, because I think employers, I know this to be true, that employers were forced to accept remote work as an option. Otherwise, they weren't going to get the work done, whatever that might be. And as things have changed, I suppose that there's some that have figured out for some people, work at home works. And for some personalities, it just doesn't. You're going to get a much lower percentage of work effort out of them. And I'm not judging, I'm one of those. But now that they don't have to worry so much about COVID, they're calling people back to the office. You're absolutely right. And I think that ultimately is going to find actually a pretty cool balance. because I think they figured out that there are people that work very well and are very effective from home, you know?
Yeah, COVID definitely taught us a lot in my office that,
Mm.
and I have people who can't work from home, and I'm one of them. During
Yeah.
COVID, I think I worked one Friday from home and ended up going playing golf like at 11 o'clock. So I'm like, I can't do this. So I was like, yeah, I'm an office kind of guy, but come in, you build some synergy with your teammates, and
Yep.
that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, I used to be with a company called ZILLOW'S Real Estate. Um, and back in the early 10s when we were cranking, there was nothing, and I'm just speaking for the synergy that you mentioned.
Hmm.
I had so much fun. We'd go in and that place was popping.
It
And
was
I mean,
booming.
God, I mean, and everybody was competitive and it was fun and positive. And there's nothing like a good office environment if you can find it. Not all of them are excellent. I get that. But when
Yeah.
you talk about synergy, that's what takes back. Back in those days, we were doing 700 and 800 homes a year, for like 10 people. So
Yeah,
it
and
was,
Terry, Terry, from the outside looking in, he run a great business. All of y'all were thick as thieves. I mean, it was a big team. It was awesome. It was, yeah. I mean, it was vibrant. It was, healthy. It was awesome. It was a great environment.
it really was a great environment. He had a way of having people be competitive and yet lock arms at the same time.
Yeah,
That's a pretty tough balance,
yeah.
because some people are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm faced with that too. I have all my loan officers here, but we know. I'll give you a good example. One of my loan officers did. She did a social media post and was offering a free appraisal. And so some of our other people liked it and saw it, so it was just put out for everybody. So
Right.
it's that's the kind of synergy that we share ideas here too, and it's cool when you do that.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what it's all about. If you can learn from five people's experience that they're having at the same time, you've quadrupled your learning curve. Meaning you've shortened it that much.
Yeah.
Let other people make mistakes, including yourself, and pass that along. Don't do that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, how we ended up. That was quite a nice rabbit hole. Thank you very much for that. So the second one that we're talking about is, and this is going to be kind of pretty much all on you. It says, buying with friends and family. Over the years that I've done business, I've had this a few times. Sometimes mom and son, or that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And I've had friends try to work together, but that's usually the question you get: can we buy a house together? So Rodney, it's all you.
Um, Buying with now, here's I'm gonna read the title here. Buying with friends and family will gain momentum. Okay. Um, I agree with that statement when it says it gains momentum. Um, and what I feel like friends and family, I think family will be more of a choice for first time home buyers out of necessity and a little bit of insurance, right? Having somebody else going along with you if the rates and prices are higher than normal,
Yeah.
or have increased, and put a big what do you call it, a big burden on a new home buyer that is looking to buy. But okay, now the rates have went up, now the prices went up. So of course, I think adding family members. I don't see a lot of friends buying together, but that's not my market. When I say it's not my market, I don't see that a lot in our area.
Mm.
I see a couple. I see a couple buying some investment properties together. We do that, but when you look at their statistics, they're talking about, they did a survey and 18% had purchased along with a friend or relative, right? And
Yeah.
then 19% intended to buy with a relative or whatever. So I don't think it's going to be 20% of our market, but I do think we will see more parents on loans, and I think we will see an increase of friends being on loans. But you know how that is, Andy.
Oh
A
God.
mortgage don't last longer than friendships usually, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's 30 years. It's like, big,
I hate you.
yes.
Why
I
did
mean,
I ever do this?
you have two, let's say you have two guys or two girls, two friends move in together. One of them's going to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend within a year, and then that's likely to get serious because that's what relationships do. I mean, it's just you know the out clause on these houses are a little bit more difficult than apartment lease.
Yeah. Did you see? We're getting smacked around a little bit.
Yeah, what do you say?
Here, let me add this to the.
Phil, I'll tell you, that's what they're trying to do. But man, when you're training them, coaching them, and got about 30 of them, yeah, they need to be in the office.
I'm gonna have to get a steak.
That's what everybody wants,
though.
That's what everybody wants is the freedom of it, but.
Well, but if you're the guy that's responsible for the bottom line, but I agree with Phil. I agree. Will it happen in the future? I don't know, but we're just now trying to figure out where is the office, meaning not the location but where does it fit in the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right. I mean, it's going to take a minute for the dust to settle. Anyway, but thank you for that was a good left hook there. I have had people in the past that were, here's what I'm trying to say. When I've had people in the past that were engaged or, just kind of getting started in a relationship and talking about buying a house, I always ask them, really think about that. Because getting into a house is a piece of cake. Getting out of one with a partner can be very expensive. Now, a couple of years ago, you could have bought in January and made money in July, probably. That's not going to be my advice these days, So, right. But I understand what you're getting at, and I've seen a lot because this is a college town. Over the years, I've seen a ton of parents buy houses, units, whatever it is, for their college kids with the expectation of renting it out after they leave college. So I've seen that, which is a different thing. But with finances the way they are, I'll bet we're going to see a lot of family members joining in. What's the rules on occupation, owner occupant, when it comes to loans?
You can have non-owner occupants on almost all loan programs now, except you won't be able to like on investments and stuff like that, right? But on just a primary residence, the one you're going to live in, mom and dad can co-sign and not, and be a part of the note without living there.
Got it. Okay. Because I remember that used to be a discussion. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and we do that, and I think that's a viable option. I think that's a good option, because one, we're able to count the parents' income and assets now, right? So it gives them a little bit, it's going to give some flexibility on that, and then having the extra income gets the ratios and debts in line, and may get them a place where they want to be right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I wonder what those percentages were, that 18 and that 19%. I wonder what that even means. 18% bought with a non-partner, not to drag out the thing.
They're saying relative who wasn't their spouse or partner.
18% of purchases of the people that they surveyed, I guess, is probably the point.
Yes, recent home buyers.
Got it.
And then 19% of prospective home buyers
Right.
said the same thing.
Right. And see, and that makes sense because when you look at the median share of income, how it rose from 27% in January, 30, I guess, is the sweet spot, according to Dave Ramsey says 25%, I think. But 30% in March, and now it's 37 in October. Probably be a smidge less this month because it's a little less than it was back then. But anyway, that's an interesting thing. We'll just have, that's a bold prediction. We'll revisit this in May of next year. And
yeah, I think it'll gain momentum. I think their statement is accurate, but I don't think they're claiming it to go up to 50% either, right? So
no. So the next one, this is a good one. The affordability crisis will stabilize. This is that's important. Philip has a question. I bet we've got, we should probably try to answer if you can see it. How can you see it there? Yeah, that.
How much can a family member put into the buy versus just co-sign? Actually, when you co-sign, any asset that you have and list will be putting into it. Like you can give them the whole down payment. Like if you're on the loan, it's no longer a gift, right? You can just use your checking account or whatever and put that down payment. So there's really no limit on when you go on the note as a non-occupant co-borrower, how much you can give to that transaction. It's as much or as little as you want.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Phil? What? I couldn't hear him. I'm sorry. He's such a good guy. So back to, where we go?
Affordability crisis will stabilize, if not improve.
You think that got it. Okay. So here's for me, and I'm gonna give most of this to Rodney because he's the financial guy. But the way I'm seeing it play out, at least the way it feels, and I'm going by feel because who knows the future, including Zillow, prices are definitely coming down. They're still positive over last year. They're predicting negative numbers year over year for next year, that prices will come down. But some are talking about like zero price improvement year over year next year. That's not a decrease. I don't care how you slice it. That's not a decrease in house pricing. That's flat, right? But as sellers become more pliable, more negotiable because they've got more competition, prices will go down if you can negotiate well. If you've got somebody that you're working with, you can negotiate to get that price down. But the way that the news that we got today with the CPI being down a little bit more than expected, though it's still sky high, it's a positive direction. I love that. We've indicated from the very beginning of the show by Rodney that mortgage rates are improving a little bit. We'll take it. You know, I mean, a basis point is 1/100%. That's not a bunch, you know.
Right.
These are pretty tiny slices, but it's improvement. And if we could bring that down to stabilize, just like what Rodney was talking about, you're going to find people getting more and more involved in the market, I think. And I think that this is probably correct, but it's not going to be gangbusters kind of a change. But I think it's going to be sort of a smooth transition into not as terrible as it was. Does that seem fair?
I like that take. I'm kind of think that when I read this headline, my take is 1,000% agree with the affordability crisis will stabilize if not improve. And the reason why is because they've already done that. The government has raised the rates so much that, you know, it bounced off that 7% ceiling we talked about earlier, and has stopped the increase of the affordability crisis, right? Because we were on a train where this thing was just continuously going forward, and prices were going up. So yeah, with the way what they've done to the financial markets and stopping the mortgage, stopping the request for mortgages and purchasing houses, it's already affected the affordability. One, it stopped the crazy increase we were doing, and now it's trying to. We're on the cusp of going backwards 1% or 2% or whatever it may end up falling out to be. But so yeah, I think that they're doing it. Doing it. It's going to do it. And what another thing they talk about in there is that rents are still growing faster than wages.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't push people to purchase a home, nothing will.
Right. An interesting take on this affordability thing is the balance that the Fed is up against. And I say Jerome Powell, but it's not him. It's a group of 12, and Janet, And again, I'm not an economist. I'm not a financial scholar, but I read enough and I'm involved in the business that I know what the effect of inflation. I know how it feels on this side. What does it do to my bottom line and my colleagues? And when you look at affordability, I mean, because when you think about the structure points they're talking about, it's like affordability is going to be driven by inflation that pushed buyers to the sideline naturally because it just got too expensive. It also keeps current owners in their homes because you'd have to have a distinct purpose to sell a 3 or 4% loan to go into something higher, significantly higher than that, knowing that you'd have to refi down the road if and when rates come down. So what I'm getting at is with the Fed rate hikes to try to cool off inflation, the last thing that they want to do, the housing market is, I've heard 20% of the economy. I don't know if that's low or high or in the middle. I don't know. But, I've heard as high as 30%. But the housing market, as it goes, the economy goes. Well, if people start buying houses all of a sudden in a flurry, well, isn't that going to jack up spending, and won't that put cooling inflation at risk?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's that's like I've said it a million times, and I never knew how this market, our phenomenal 15-year run or whatever it's been, I never knew how it was going to come to an end. But right now, the government, I feel like, is controlling it with rates. And what they've done is they've stopped they're trying to slow the affordability crisis down, right? Hey, let's put brakes on everything. Let's let things get caught up. Let's let some, but they're not doing anything greatly about inventory. And that's my concern is that, when you don't do anything about inventory, then the first time these rates hit, we're going to be, you could be faced again with low inventory and too big of a demand.
Right. Well, I think we touched on this last week. This is really interesting that we just touched on it for home sellers. Hi, Angie. How are you? Haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. Glad to see you here. Say hi to Phil and Wendy. We had talked about pent up demand for sellers because if we've got 1 million sellers, I'm absolutely making that up, but hundreds of thousands of sellers that feel perhaps trapped a little bit because of that what they call the locked in effect, low mortgage rate. We just talked about that. But if all of a sudden rates, I'm going to say normalized or got a little bit better, when you're talking about inventory, is there a chance that sellers could, I'm going to use the word flood in the market. I don't really mean that, but that more sellers could come into the market if they found themselves with the freedom to get the heck out and, upsize, downsize, or move to Tampa?
Yeah, yes, I do. I do think that, and because we've been affected by move-in buyers. Our area a lot has been dominated by move-in buyers, which
Hmm.
is just a -1 off our market, right? But when a current homeowner, it's a net zero, right? They sell one, they buy one. But when you got a move-in, it's just a -1 on your inventory. So yes, you're right, Andy. I mean, you probably understand that better than I do, and that's kind of an angle I really hadn't thought about, is because our past market has been mostly, move in, without something to sell. So
Right.
you're
Yeah.
right. So if our inventory is only a third of what it needs to be, or a half of what it needs to be, what you're saying is, like, when these people start, the people who are the pin up demand start selling, they're going to put their house on the market as well,
That's what I'm
which
getting at.
adds to it. Yeah,
And that's going to add to the inventory, which is going to keep the pricing. It's going to keep that upward pressure off, because
exactly. Yes.
supply and demand. If you got more supply, the prices are going to be more normal. And I get the funniest feeling when I get past the sensational headlines, of which there's a million, and I understand, I understand. But I get the feeling, with the way the report came out today and the things that are happening, we have a good, and who am I? But we have a good chance at this soft landing they're talking about. Because I'll tell you what, 7.1 better than expected. I'll take that all day. We'll see what happens next month. It might
Yeah.
go up. And my warning to myself is, just because it looks good today, it could bounce around and, jump up a little bit next month, which I expect. You know,
Right.
I expect that. That's what I think soft landing is about. But as people feel, one thing that we have learned, it seems to me, over this market and this last, even when the financial side of the housing market sucks big time, people still move.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're moving, and it's not
There,
all cash buyers.
right. The bigger the city, the bigger the metro area, if you have millions of people, life happens, jobs happen, and people are going to move no matter what the circumstance. Like, if I found a house today I loved, I'd move. I wouldn't worry. I'd just try to manage that debt later when the rates come down. So, um, yeah, they're still moving, just not at the pace it was.
Yeah, it will. See, bear with me a second here. Apparently, we have competition called the World Cup. Yes, and so the other thing that had talked about the affordability, and this is what you talked about too. In some places, it says here that rents actually dropped in some places the first time in 2 years.
Hmm.
Um, but long term, I don't know that. Well, okay, then let's go on to the next one, because that's going to be pretty interesting. I think we covered that pretty good. A surge in landlords. I thought this was an interesting topic. Um, Bottom line is, people bought houses that all of a sudden they couldn't sell at a profit if you're a flipper, right? I
Hmm.
mean, your flip potential was eliminated,
Yeah, the flippers
minimized.
yeah, I mean, some of the markets around the country got so skinny on these flips that they were making just a few $1,000s.
Hmm.
I'm like, I was talking to flippers, and when they're trying to make $7,000-8,000 on a $300,000 house, I'm like, man, you are skinny on that. I'm
Yeah,
like, that is cutting it close. But um, the first surge in first time landlords, I definitely agree with that. It's been going on for a while. Um, it's me and my operations manager talk about it all the time. man, I see a lot of people buying these investment properties all the time. And what scares me is a little bit is a lot of them do not seem to just have the wherewithal, or to miss like a payment or two. That's what I'm scared of. Is
What's
that
the? I've been reading about investors jumping back into the market. Rodney, what's? I haven't studied up on that. What's causing that to happen?
well, two things. One is I think that people like myself, when I had my last house, I really didn't want to sell it. I just kind of thought of it as a long-term strategy for a retirement plan. So I just rented it. And if you go, and if you're going and buying it, so I think that these people, the surging first-time landlords, are going to be from people who are moving out, but may necessarily keep their property as a rental. And I also think people might get in the investment arena because of the real estate equity boom we've seen over the last several years. They're thinking, well, maybe I should do this if I, keep it for 10 years or whatever. They'll experience, that as well. So I think that that's going to be a good, I think that's an accurate statement. I think it will be. I'm already seeing it. Like a lot of clients in this area are buying and have been buying a lot for a while investment properties. We do a lot of investment properties. Your sound's off.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. If you are an investor, of the two options you've got when you buy a place, it's either flip it for a profit, or the only other option is to rent it out and get long-term money. I mean, that's pretty much it. So Philip's laughing at me. You're a pleasure, man. You are. But, that's right. And I know, you know what? I'm going to do a little promotion here that Phil and Wendy are investor friends of mine, and we're going to put together a live stream like this on how they do what they do. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, kind of putting them on the spot, but we're going to do a live stream on maybe the how-to and what to expect and how it's working for them, because they're very successful at it. I'll let them tell you more, but you can plan on that in the next few weeks, and I look forward to that. So, and I know Rodney's helped us with all of their stuff, so we're a good team. But they're not first-time landlords. They've been doing this for a minute. That's pretty cool. So the next one that we've got is okay. His business model, apparently it's publishing to the world. It's travel nurses is what they do. If somebody's, that's how they do it. And I think that is such a cool segment of the market. Such a cool segment of the market. Really smart. Really, these are really smart people, and just the sweetest people you ever meet. Anyway, so this next one is new construction on rentals. Isn't that an interesting thing? So the builders, if you can't sell what you're building, you're going to build rentals. Apparently, that's the case.
Well, and I don't know what have I agreed with all of them but one. I don't know if this is something we're going to see in our market. So that's a lot of my stuff is about my market, right? Because I don't know, I'm not in depth in tune with what's going to happen in New York or whatever. But
right.
I know what's happened with new. I'll give you a little background. New construction right now, I think some banks are probably going to their people, their builders that have spec homes that haven't sold right now that are sitting.
Right.
And so I think that a lot of the suggestions are rent them. The bank wants you to rent them, and stuff like that. So I don't know if they've seen a increase in new construction being turned into rental, like from what the banks are trying to work out with notes and stuff with builders that can't sell
Right.
their existing inventory, and that's peaked a kind of a prediction. But um, the only thing I see is like people may try to do these condos that are tabbed for the overnight rentals and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we've seen some of that come up, but just a row of or neighborhoods of investment properties, duplexes. We I don't even know if our codes would allow it, but I don't see that statement um, being a big part of new construction strength.
Right. One of the it was a term that I'd never heard before today was called rolling deliveries, and what that is as a builder is building homes, and they've been struck with a lot of cancellations in this last few months, but the house is still standing, right? And so as the houses get available, that's called rolling deliveries, and that's gonna what they're saying is that's going to up the inventory a little bit. Is it enough to make a big dent? I don't think so, probably, but it is going to add more inventory because of those rolling deliveries. And there's nothing. I mean, what else can you do? Finish the house and try to sell it. That's what you can do.
Right.
But what it said in this article, and I know this to be the fact as much as I'm reading it third party, but builder confidence in single family dwellings is the lowest it's been in decades. It's like 33%, whatever that might mean. I don't know what that might mean. The 33, I don't know what that means. I know that 50% means that they're reasonably positive. So take that. But they've become more positive about the rental market because if fewer people can afford to buy a house, they got to live someplace. And so rentals is going to be the thing. That's going to be the game. And so what they're talking about is as they add more and more of these rental properties, that it's going to moderate the rental prices.
Well, I see that, but do builders actually build? I think builders build spec homes and renters buy them and landlords buy them. I don't think builders go out and build for landlords. I think
No, I meant I failed to mention in multifamily properties is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Multifamily, not single family. My apologies. I'm glad you brought that up. But multifamily, they're really interested in that because you and I have both seen in the past how they've taken apartment complexes and turned them into condos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yes.
know, and I would say that somebody that's forward thinking, and that's way smarter than me, certainly, that they've got that sort of in the plan. If the market shifts, change that from an apartment building to condos.
We have a good developer in our area that does that. They used to be Hosteller, Newhoff, and Davis. I think they're one of the partners, but you've probably sold a bunch of their townhomes with
Which one?
Hosteller, Newhoff, and Davis. They got one. Their last project, I think, was down off Tusculum Road.
Yeah, over there in Nolensville.
Yeah,
No kidding.
but yeah, they do. They're good at buying apartments or turning apartments into condos.
And converting those, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm wondering. Phil and Wendy's on here. I wonder if those the chateau. I wonder if those were always houses. I wonder. I have to look that up. So one of the other things. So as we have builders, not focused on renters, but as we have builders with, I'm going to call it excess inventory or inventory to get rid of, that they have to move. Let me ask you this as an aside, because I don't know the answer to this. Are construction loans different in terms of the pressure that would apply to a person, versus, a regular home buyer?
Uh, Sorry, I moved, my light kicked on. No, it's a little bit different. They know, like your builder will go to will have a construction loan, and what's going to happen is that the lender's going to call them and say, "Hey, man, this thing's having a birthday." And they just may have a discussion with them, what's going on with it, and it depends on what they have. Like some builders may have 50 of these,
Right.
so it just depends on how big it is, how many they got, what kind of strategies they're working on to get through them. But no, it's not like the banks are going to work with them
Right.
because you take it out knowing you may have to extend that construction loan on the front end anyways. You never want
Right.
to, but
Right.
that's just part of the business.
Right. And the thing that I have to consider, they're talking massive amounts of dollars. This is high finance we're talking about, so I get that. I get that. So as we finish up on this, and what a good day, Rodney. You only disagreed with one. Well, you're particularly friendly today.
Man, I got my own opinions about everything.
I know
But
that. I love that.
I
That's
mean,
what it
you
keeps
know,
me interested, man.
but I'll tell you this: I've been wrong before, and I'm going to be wrong again. But it's when you talk through this, like the side that you pointed out, like somebody's going to be bringing a house to the market that adds to the inventory. Uh, and actually, your point about converting apartments, that would be considered a new construction on
Mm.
a from a bank's perspective. That would be considered a new loan, a new construction loan. So um, all of those factors in and of itself would make that bold statement come true. You know,
Well, and I think that we're under there. The when we're talking about the sellers that are locked in, and I'm going to call it stuck because that's how it would feel. I think. I bet that's invisible. I can't tell you. Nobody can quantify how many of
right,
those there are because they're not on the market. Well, how do you quantify not on the market?
right,
And I'll bet that it's more than you think. But there's going to be a point when the rates get to where they need to be for those people to decide I'm going to move on this, that it's going to start to break loose a little bit. And what I'm thinking is from a psychological standpoint, when things get to the point where they break loose again, I figure people are going to be in a bit of a hurry to get things done because we've already seen chaos happen comparatively overnight. And so when somebody starts the process, they're going to want to get it done, and button things up as fast as possible because we've seen it fall apart. They've seen it fall apart. And so that uncertainty is going to be, you're going to pick your moment. Whereas in the past, you could kind of slide until this last couple of years. And if you didn't buy this month, house is literally $10,000 more, in a month or two, so you
right.
couldn't wait. So there will be that. That's going to be an interesting thing. And we've already seen this. Post me up. Here I go. We've already seen when we have rates like 7% or 7 whatever, and then it drops down to 6, 7. All of a sudden, people are buying, thinking that's a good deal. We're all resilient people, and it just doesn't take 5% to change the dynamics on this thing. I just
Right.
I just don't think it does. And even if that, I don't know if that's going to happen in the next 2 years, but we're going to be okay. So, and I'm really optimistic, especially after today's CPI. And I don't know anything about it except I watch this stuff all the time. So the next
Yeah.
question I have, and we'll button it up on this because, again, this is not my bailiwick, and that is when builders have extra inventory, they want to protect the value of that property for the homeowners, the new homeowners that they've sold in recent past. They're going to try to maintain that appraisal rate. But in order to entice buyers, sometimes they will give incentives. And one of them is buy down rates or buy down points. Is that the same thing? I don't know. Can you tell me, is that a good thing? How does that work, basically? And
Well, right now, what we're seeing is around here is what I'm seeing most of is buyers. The first thing builders want to do is give you an incentive before they reduce their sales price, right? Because they've already had, you may be the first or the 50th in the neighborhood. And unless you're the first, they really don't want to go backwards. So what they try to do first is give you lender incentives that, like, let's say that they could give you incentives like $10,000 worth of upgrades to the house, or they'll give you closing cost money and things like that. So yeah, those are excellent incentives. In normal times, those are just kind of built into the price of the home, and the incentives are offered like that. But at this time, prices have gone up so much, they're doing anything they can to get out of the inventory that they have. And unfortunately, sometimes they're going to start, those values will go backwards a little bit and effectively hurt the neighborhood and the people who bought, within the months. But it typically blows over pretty quickly and gets going in the right direction. Your mic again. Go ahead, Phil. Get on him, son. Don't let him do that.
Just try to, yeah. So the buy down rates, it's just a great way to get people into the house without hurting anybody else's value. That's what a bottom line is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have it built in, and think about 6 months ago, a seller wouldn't give you 10 cents to do anything. So I see it as a positive.
Yeah, that has changed. Boy, I've got such strong opinions on that, and I will keep them to myself. But what a fun day, Rodney. This was really good. And you know what? We'll do a follow-up. Have to put this on my calendar to follow up on our bold predictions in, 6 months is probably fair, and we'll just see, won't that be an interesting thing? So, I tell you what, Philip, Wendy, get ready. We got to talk about that live stream coming up in a couple of weeks. People, especially if investors are coming into the market like we're talking about, they're going to want to know how you do what you do so well. So we'll have to talk about that. Get on the phone, talk about that. And Angie, can't thank you enough for stopping by. Good luck on the game, whoever you're rooting for. Always good to see your name pop up. What a pleasure. Hey, listen, everybody, thanks a lot. Have a great Tuesday. Rodney, you are the bomb, man. You are my hero. I sure appreciate you. And we'll see you next.
Thank you. Nice. Thanks, buddy.
I think we'll see you next Tuesday. All right. Bye-bye.
I see you. There we go. That was a little abrupt.